You got to kiss an angel good morning and let her know you think about her when you're gone.
Charlie Pride's name didn't just echo on the baseball field, it thundered through the heart of country music. He was a man who broke barriers and chased his dream with relentless determination. For Charlie Pride, surrender simply didn't exist. Not only did he rise to the top, but he stood toe-to-toe with the legendary Elvis Presley. Yet, behind the spotlight, the trailblazing black country star carried burdens of his own, and his final words before passing left the world stunned. What was his shocking revelation? Let's uncover the truth. Daring to dream. Charlie Frank Pride was the fourth of 11 children born to sharecroppers Tessie and Fowler MacArthur Pride in Sledge, Mississippi, on March 18, 1938. From the very beginning, it was clear his path would be unlike that of his parents. His name was meant to be Charles. His father had chosen it. But the midwife wrote Charlie on the birth certificate, and the family simply let it be. Growing up in Sledge, young Charlie dreamed of more than just picking cotton. He wanted to travel. He wanted freedom. He wanted to see the world like a bird soaring across the sky. But the dream that kept him awake at night wasn't music. It was baseball, professional league baseball. From the moment he first stepped onto a field, his heart raced with excitement. The game called to him, louder than anything else. Still, there was another love quietly tugging at his soul, a love that would one day give him the wings he longed for. That love was music. The sound of strings, the beauty of voices. It wrapped around him like magic. At home, the family's Philco radio became his teacher. Every evening after school, he listened closely to the country songs that filled the air. By day, Charlie picked cotton beside his parents, not to save for food or clothes, but to buy a Silvertone guitar from Sears and Roebuck. At just 14, he bought it and taught himself how to play. At night, he sang to his family, his young voice echoing with covers of songs he loved on the radio. Yet even then, baseball still had the stronger grip on his heart. Unable to resist its call, Charlie made a bold choice. He left school after the 11th grade with his parents' blessing. And in 1952, Charlie Pride left home to chase his dream on the baseball field. At just 16, Charlie Pride stepped onto the diamond as a pitcher for the Memphis Red Sox of the Negro American League. In 1953, he signed with the Boise Yankees, the Class C farm team of the legendary New York Yankees. It looked as if destiny had opened the door. Charlie was finally on the path to the pro baseball career he had always dreamed of. But then, the unexpected struck. That very season, an accident shattered everything. His shoulder gave way, and with it, the fire on his fastball was gone. He was sidelined, his dream put on hold. Doctors and scouts still clung to a thread of hope. They reassigned him to the Yankees' Class D team in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. But reality soon hit hard. Charlie was no longer the athlete they had first signed. And so, they let him go. Not long after, humiliation came in its cruelest form. While playing in the Negro Leagues with the Louisville Clippers, Charlie and teammate Jesse Mitchell were traded, not for another player, but for a used team bus. The sting was unbearable. To be replaced by a bus cut him deeper than any wound. In that moment, Charlie felt worthless. His dream of professional baseball crumbling before his very eyes. For a time, he sank into depression, But giving up? That was never in his blood. Instead, Charlie fought back. For 3 long years, he trained, he healed, he pushed his body beyond its limits. And by 1956, he returned. Back with the Memphis Red Sox, but no longer the same man. He had transformed. That season, he won 14 games as a pitcher and earned himself a spot on the Negro American All-Star team. Once again, the dream seemed alive. Charlie Pride was back on track, closer than ever to turning his boyhood vision into reality. Then, tragedy struck again. Charlie suffered another injury, a cracked bone in his elbow. Once more, he was sidelined. But this time, he refused to be defeated. Charlie reinvented himself. He became a knuckleball pitcher. And against all odds, he recovered, fast enough to rejoin his team by season end. Soon, he was back on the mound, back in the spotlight. As an all-star, Charlie went head-to-head with some of the greatest to ever play the game. Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, legends. And at the end of that season, the Negro League All-Stars clashed with the Major League All-Stars in exhibition games, games the majors always dominated. They were ruthless, unstoppable. But then, one October night in Victoria, Texas, Charlie Pride rewrote history. Pitching 4 shutout innings, he carried the Negro All-Stars to a rare, stunning victory. That night, he was crowned MVP. As the crowd roared his name, it felt like destiny was finally his. But just when the dream was within reach, Uncle Sam came calling. That same year, Charlie was drafted into the U.S. Army, and once again, he had to say goodbye to his beloved Memphis Red Sox. With no military experience, he endured grueling basic training. Then he was stationed at Fort Carson, Colorado. And there, a glimmer of hope appeared. Fort Carson had a baseball team. Charlie's eyes lit up. Once more, the game he loved gave him a reason to keep fighting. He became quartermaster by day and a player by passion. His presence on the field lifted the team to victory in the All-Army Sports Championship. Even far from home, Charlie refused to surrender his dream. He clung to it, nurtured it, and with every pitch, he grew stronger. Rather than despair, Charlie chose hope. He refused to let setbacks define him. Every challenge only fueled his determination. He still had dreams to chase. And during this time, fate intervened. He met Rosine at a baseball game in Memphis, Tennessee. Their connection, instant, powerful, as if they had known each other all their lives. When Charlie left for the Army, her face lingered in his mind. Through the drills, through the lonely nights, Rosine was always there, in his heart. On Christmas Eve, they reunited, and in that moment, Charlie knew. Life was too short for hesitation. Love had no timetable. So, he asked her to marry him, and she said yes. In 1956, they became husband and wife. Together, they built a family, 2 sons, Craig and Dion, and a daughter, Angela. The boy who had once left home at 16 with nothing but dreams and an old guitar was now a man with love, family, and purpose. No longer alone, no longer wandering. But in the Army, nothing was guaranteed. Life could vanish in an instant. And for the first time, Charlie cared, because now he had something to lose. But now, things were different. He had a wife, he had children, and the thought haunted him, What if I didn't make it back alive? Rosine would be left all alone. His children would grow up without a father. That fear was sobering. For the first time, Charlie realized he had more to lose. People were depending on him. So he tightened his resolve. No more recklessness, no more careless risks. He had to be strong. He had to be the kind of man his children would one day be proud to call father. Losing was not an option. Charlie never ran from hard work. He never shirked responsibility. He faced it, head on. But there was a new balance to find. Dreams were important. Family was everything. And Charlie was determined to win it all. When he was discharged in 1958, he returned to the Memphis Red Sox, but the comeback was not what he had hoped. Old injuries came back to haunt him. His once powerful pitch was gone, and with it, part of his confidence. Yet Charlie did not give up. If he couldn't pitch, he would bat. In 1960, he played 3 games for the Missoula Timberjacks of the Pioneer League, but again, his injured shoulder raised doubts. The directors grew wary, and soon he was laid off. Most men would have quit. Most men would have gone home in defeat. But not Charlie Pride. He had come too far, sacrificed too much, and quitting was never in his blood. So when the Timberjacks let him go, Charlie made a bold decision. He packed his dreams and set out in search of greener pastures.
In 1960, Charlie Pride made a move, this time to Helena, Montana. By day, he worked construction. By night, he wrestled with his thoughts. The truth was hard to ignore. His dream of making it to the major leagues was slipping further and further away. For the first time, doubt crept in. No matter how much passion he had, no matter how much desire burned in his heart, it couldn't fix his shoulder. It wasn't as strong. It wasn't as reliable. And Charlie knew it. But he wasn't ready to quit. Not yet. Not without one last try. Soon, he was recruited to pitch for a semi-pro team, the East Helena Smelterites. The manager saw something in Charlie and even helped him get a job at the Asarco lead smelter. This wasn't just any factory job. The smelter kept 18 jobs open only for baseball players. Shifts were arranged so the men could work by day and play ball as a team by night. For Charlie Pride, it was heaven. As long as there was baseball, you could count him in. Pitcher, batter, outfield, it didn't matter. He wasn't chasing glory anymore. He wasn't chasing the spotlight. He played simply because he loved the game. And that love, that passion, kept him going when everything else seemed lost.
In 1961, Charlie Pride got a shot. The Los Angeles Angels invited him to spring training. For 2 weeks, he lived the dream. But then, it ended. He was sent back home to Helena, Montana. The next year, the New York Mets called. Another tryout, another chance. But once again, he didn't make the cut. This time, reality hit him hard. Maybe the big leagues weren't meant to be. Maybe it was time to stop chasing. Charlie told himself, as long as I can play, that's enough. He had the East Helena Smelterites, he had his teammates, and he still had the game he loved. But life had other plans. One hot afternoon, before a game, the man scheduled to sing the national anthem never showed. The crowd was restless. The players were waiting. Someone asked, "Does anybody here know how to sing?"
Without thinking twice, Charlie raised his hand. He walked onto the field, the same field where he'd fought for baseball glory, but this time with nothing but his voice. And when he sang, the stadium fell silent. His teammates already knew. They had heard him humming at work, singing at the smelter, his voice turning danger and exhaustion into something almost heavenly. Smelting was brutal, hot, risky, deadly. He had even broken his ankle on the job once. But through the noise, through the danger, Charlie's songs had been the light. And now, for the first time, that light was shining on a field, under the eyes of a crowd. What he didn't know then was that this single moment, this anthem, sung on a whim, was the spark that would open a brand new window. A window that would change his destiny forever.
Baseball had been his heartbeat, his identity, his dream. Letting go of it was like losing a part of his soul. But then, one anthem, one moment, changed everything. Word began to spread. "Did you hear? One of the smelters can sing." Clubs called, bars called. Even small-town events wanted his voice. Charlie hadn't seen this coming. For years, he had lived and breathed baseball. Music? That was just the second love, the one he thought he'd left behind in childhood. But every time he sang, the radio nights came back. Him and his father tuning in, listening to the Grand Ole Opry, a boy with wide eyes, dreaming of something more. Now that boy had grown, and that same music was saving him. It pulled him out of the loneliness of lost dreams. It gave him confidence again. Soon, he wasn't just Charlie the smelter. He wasn't just Charlie the ball player. He was becoming Charlie Pride, the singer people couldn't forget. By 1967, he had bought his first house in Helena. It was more than just walls and a roof. It was proof. Proof that this new path was real. His children, Dion and Angela, were born there. That little Montana town wasn't just where he found music again. It was where he built a family, where he healed from baseball's heartbreak. But life wasn't without its shadows. Montana in the 1960s was not kind to a black man. Charlie and Rosine faced racism head-on. Restaurants turned them away. A realtor refused to show them a house simply because of the color of their skin. Rosine later admitted those moments cut deep. But Charlie, he refused to let bitterness win. Slowly, town by town, he sang his way into people's hearts. And little by little, prejudice began to melt. Charlie Pride was no longer chasing baseball stadiums. He was filling music halls, and the world was finally starting to listen. Charlie knew he had to take the next step. So he walked into Sun Studios, the very place where legends had begun. He recorded a professional demo, but it fell flat. No sparks, no breakthrough. Still, he refused to quit. If the records wouldn't play his voice, then the people would hear it live. He kept performing, bars, clubs, little halls, wherever they would have him. And then fate intervened. In Nashville, Jack Johnson heard that deep, resonant tone, the kind of voice that could move mountains. He looked Charlie in the eye and said, "You're going to be the next big thing." Johnson promised him a management contract. So Charlie went home to Montana, waiting, still singing, still hustling. Sometimes he stood alone on stage with just his guitar. Other nights, he played with a group called the Nighthawks. A teenage girl on the drums, Jimmy Owen on guitar, Jimmy's father on steel strings, and Charlie front and center, his voice carrying the night. Together, They gave Montana a taste of pure country soul. Meanwhile, back in Nashville, Jack Johnson was fighting a war behind closed doors. Every label he approached said the same thing. We love the voice. We love the sound. But, and the but was always the same, his skin color. A year passed. Then, finally, a crack of light. John Sokos called Charlie to Nashville. 2 songs, 2 demos, recorded with cowboy Jack Clemens. And those tapes found their way to RCA. Chet Atkins pressed play. And when Charlie's voice filled the room, Chet made a decision that would change history. This man's color does not matter. At that moment, the doors of Nashville began to open. In 1966, Charlie Pride signed with RCA Records. But another storm was waiting. Chet Atkins had faith in him, but would the world? The label feared the backlash. They feared racial controversies. They feared for Charlie's safety and his family's. So they took a gamble. They released his first singles without photos, without even mentioning his race. His debut, The Snakes Crawl at Night, flopped. The second, Before I Met You, missed again. But then came the third, Just Between You and Me. And with it, history shifted. On February 25, 1967, the song climbed to number 9 on the country charts. Charlie Pride, at last, had broken through. A year later, a Grammy nomination. Fans were growing. His name was spreading. And RCA made a bold choice. It was time to show the world who he really was. Late summer 1966, Olympia Stadium, Detroit. 10,000 country fans packed the arena. They had no idea. No one told them Charlie Pride was black. When his name was called and a black man stepped onto the stage, the cheers fell into silence. Charlie remembered that moment forever. I knew I'd have to get it over with sooner or later. He looked at the crowd and said, "Friends, I realize it's a little unique, me coming out here with a permanent suntan to sing country and western for you. But that's the way it is." A ripple of laughter. The ice began to melt. And then he sang. By the time he finished, no one cared what color he was. Charlie Pride had won their hearts. Not with fists, but with music, with soul, with courage.
December 12th, 2020. The world stopped. The news came. Charlie Pride was gone. Complications from COVID-19 had claimed his life. For a moment, time itself felt slower. A giant had fallen. Charlie wasn't just a singer. He was a monument, a landmark in country music history, living proof of black resilience. The nation mourned. But then came the shock, the final message, one he had asked his wife to share, only after his death. Charlie confessed that all his fame, all his success, sometimes felt unreal. He said baseball had scarred him too deeply. Rejected, traded for a bus, left broken with injuries. So when music embraced him, he could hardly believe it. How, he wondered, how could they accept me when others were cast out just for the color of their skin? He admitted he had doubted the applause. When his first song reached Billboard's top 10, he thought it was a mistake.
When Detroit's Olympia Stadium rose to its feet, he felt undeserving. At first, music was just for money, but slowly, it made him feel alive, almost like baseball had once done. Still, deep down, he believed his heart belonged elsewhere, to the game he could never return to, baseball. Till his last breath, he carried that wound, watching games on TV, feeling the rush, thinking, that could have been me. And yet, he gave the world his voice. He gave the world his courage. He gave the world a legacy.
In 1967, Charlie Pride stepped onto the stage of the Grand Ole Opry, the first black performer since DeFord Bailey, who had last appeared in 1941. History was being written that night. Soon he rose higher and higher, becoming RCA Records' best-selling artist, selling even more albums than Elvis Presley and John Denver. 52 songs on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart, 30 of them #1 hits. All I Have to Offer You Is Me. Is Anybody Going to San Antone? And the anthem that defined him, Kiss an Angel, Good Morning. It became the Charlie Pride Anthem. He was crowned Entertainer of the Year in 1971. He won a Grammy in 1972. He sang gospel. He wrote his book. He sang the national anthem at the World Series and the Super Bowl. And then, in 2020, after a stunning CMA Awards performance, he received the Willie Nelson Lifetime Achievement Award. That night, no one knew. It would be his last performance. Weeks later, he revealed his COVID-19 diagnosis. And then, the dreaded news came. Charlie Pride was gone. But not forgotten, because his story lives on. A man who broke barriers, a man who showed that color could never silence a dream. He had chased baseball, but found music. And in that music, he found his purpose. Charlie's journey reminds us, your dream may not unfold the way you first imagined. But if you keep moving, keep pushing, and never give up, you may discover your true destiny in a place you never expected. So what do you think of Charlie's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Before you go, click on the video displayed on your screen. Another incredible story is waiting for you there.
Charlie once said, "Baseball broke my heart, but music healed it." His voice may be silent now, but his story still sings. A story that reminds us all, dreams don't die. They only change shape. So whenever life closes one door, remember Charlie Pride, because your true destiny may be waiting right where you least expect it.